Honorable Vice Principal and my teacher, Bara S. Ahmed, and respected management and faculty members, dear parents, and our students. I'm both honored and humbled to be standing here in front of you and being asked to say a few words. With a tinge of humility, I also feel a stab of nostalgia, because it was just 5 years ago that I was standing right here in the STM Hall as a valedictorian for my graduating batch of 2013. Here I am again. How time flies. I would like to begin by congratulating each and every one of you for soldiering through what must have been the two most intellectually challenging years of your life. On a more general note, I congratulate you on finishing school. To most, if not all of you, this graduation day signifies a kind of a finale, a day that marks an end. And why shouldn't it? Since it formally marks an end to your 16 or so years of school life, an end to waking up at 6 a.m. every day to make it past those school gates by the dreaded 8 a.m. deadline, an end to spending 5 days of the week with your beloved childhood friends, an end to your Scholastica journey. But they say every exit is an entry to somewhere else, and indeed it is. To quote a US senator, graduation is not the end, it's the beginning. And here, I do not simply mean that this graduation marks the beginning of your university life. Oftentimes, we seem to conceptualize the effect of graduation on a purely individual level. Finishing O-levels means that you can finally sit for your A-levels. Graduating from A-levels means you can finally apply for university. Graduating from university means you can finally apply for a job. But is this all that graduation means? I invite you, all of you today, to think of graduation away from a purely personal or individual level to a more collective level. Your graduation coincides with most of you turning 18. Thus, you have formally exited what is known as the age of minority and entered the age of majority. This in law means that you've transitioned from being someone's responsibility to responsible citizens yourself. You're shifting from being someone who takes from society to someone who is expected to give back. It is in this context that I draw your attention to a recent national headline. Earlier this year in March, the UN announced that Bangladesh is eligible to graduate from being a least developed country to a developing country, after 43 long years of being in the former category. I personally think it is highly symbolic that you are all graduating in the same year that Bangladesh is set to graduate from this LDC category. What does this symbolize? It symbolizes that we, as a nation and people, are on the verge of immense change. Our country has gone from being one of the poorest nations in South Asia, once called a bottomless basket, to one of its most prosperous, now called the next tiger economy. After attaining the status of developing country, our government hopes Bangladesh will gain the status of developed country by 2041. And this is precisely where you, our newest set of responsible citizens, come in. If Bangladesh is ever to graduate from developing country to a developed country, it can only be through the culmination of your efforts. You must be the engine that marches our train forward. But how do we move this train forward? What has been the formula of our success? Most experts say the reason behind our growth is not only the rapid expansion of our garments industry, but also the empowerment of women through progressive policies. One such policy was the employment of 4 million women in the garment sector. Millions of women who used to be our low-paid maids were now using machinery to manufacture clothes. Today, 80% of garment workers are women. It is to these 4 million women that we owe our success to. It is their hard work and tenacity in the face of overwhelming odds and horrendous working conditions which has pushed our country forward. We as a nation are enjoying the fruits of their tireless labor. It is clear then that economic and social progress is a natural outcome of women empowerment. But is it only a women's issue? Of course not. Men and boys must also be involved. If we want to take our country forward, we must all be champions of women empowerment, which also means being the opponents of anything that seeks to challenge this movement. Thus, as you enter this new beginning, I invite and challenge you to fight against everything that seeks to stop women empowerment, be it sexism or anti-women prejudice, any and every form it may take. And why specifically do I think you are in a special position to do so? It's because you are graduating from one of the most, if not the most, progressive schools in the country. One that typified women empowerment before it became a global United Nations agenda. It is only after leaving Scholastica that I realized how much of an egalitarian school I had attended. Take, for instance, the issue of sports, which unfortunately remains heavily male-dominated in our country and wider continent, whereby women and girls are not allowed to engage in outdoor activities. Yet in Scholastica, it has always been inconceivable to think of sports as being the exclusive realm of boys. I remember from grade 5 that it was our girls' handball team that was being flown to Italy to participate in an international handball tournament. I recall from class 4 that all of the boys from my section were lined up in our court cheering our girls' handball team fighting it off in the inter-school tournament. This would even be a rare scene in a progressive country like America, the self-proclaimed leader of the free world. I also remember that the top management positions in our school were occupied overwhelmingly by women, even though this too is rare, not only in our country, but across the world. This very STM hall in which we are seated embodies women empowerment, since it is a structure built by a woman in honor and in dedication of our belated husband. Our honorable founder, Mrs. Yasmin Morshid, herself epitomizes female empowerment and exemplifies the immense and endless benefits that an empowered woman can give to a country. Education, employment, and the infinite dissemination of knowledge. Without Yasmin Morshid, there would be no Scholastica, and without Scholastica, there would be no you nor I. In this sense, I would argue that female empowerment is a founding principle of Scholastica, and one that you not only have an ability to maintain, but a duty to carry forward. As you leave this room today, I want you to know that your Scholastica journey has not really come to an end. It has only changed in form. Your daily physical commitments to Scholastica may have come to an end, but the legacy it expects you to fulfill lives on. You have reached the end of a 16-year-long training period, and now it is time for you to perform. If we are to push this country forward, we cannot do so without empowering women. And if we are to empower women, we cannot do so without each and every one of you joining the fight. Rather than simply thinking of your academic certificates as tickets to your next institutional destination, I invite you to think of it as a ticket to change your country, perhaps even the world. I repeat, your graduation is not an end, it is only the beginning. So instead of saying goodbye, I say welcome. Welcome to a new stage of your Scholastican journey. Welcome to the possibility of being the change. Thank you.